Okay guys, hey, welcome to the Corrupted Crawdaunt. This is my first video, and I was going to talk about the February 21st Pokemon leak that was posted to Reddit. I did a lot of research for this video, so hopefully you guys can stick around to the end. And hey, if you learned something, or if you kind of like the things I'm talking about, leave a like, subscribe. There's going to be more nerding out stuff in the future. So first of all, let's just talk about the leak. Basically, this guy said that the following things on the 21st, which is cool because the direct didn't happen until after this, so that's pretty dope. He said that the games would be Pokemon Sword and Shield, and then the region would be Great Britain. Legendary Pokemon are a Metal Snake and a Wooden Horse, Armored Evolutions, and then he made a list of some of the Armored Evolutions. And then he said that Meltan ties into the Armored Evolution and Legendary lore, which is really interesting. Because he got this right, and as you can see, boom, he got Sword and Shield right. And then, personally, I am under the belief that the Galar region, as it's being called, is based off the United Kingdom. Just kind of because of, like, the vibe it gives off, but not just that, the environments, the clock towers. It kind of reminds me of, like, an industrial Britain, and it's super awesome. But, so if we're going by that, he got that right, and he got that right. So if he gets any of these wrong, this is what we call a kill switch. So let me just go into what I found kind of supporting this leak, actually. So the thing he says is that the legendary Pokemon are Metal Snake and Wooden Horse. Now here's, you're going to have to bear with me because I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here. But the legendary Pokemons of every region have a link to the location that they're based off of. For example, the Johto region is based off of a lot of Eastern beliefs. So we've got Feng Wang and Raikou, I think, is what these two are based off of. So, I mean, Feng Wang is just blatant. But, it's a little more complicated for Lugia here. But basically, this creature here will sleep in the bottom of the ocean until the ocean needs protecting, just like Lugia, so that's pretty dope. And then in Norse mythology, you have Yggdrasil, which is the life tree, which is what Xerneas is based off of from the Kalos region. And then at the bottom of the tree of life is the Nidhogg, the tree that eats at the bottom, which is what the 50% form of Zygarde is based off of, actually. So a lot of the times they like to use similarities of the region they're based off. Those are just a few examples. They're my personal favorite ones. But back to the actual story. He also says that Meltan relates to the legendaries, so we're going to kind of go with that thing. Here's what's kind of cool for me. I personally believe that this is 100% true, and here's why. This is kind of the picture that was shown in the direct of, like, a hillside. And I don't know if you guys can kind of see it, but their heads are like little circles with dots in them. Just like, Meltan's, which is very important. And then this big one kind of has a similar thing going on as Melmetal. It's not one for one, but it's actually, pretty similar. Now, this is where stuff gets absolutely crazy, though. If you see the positioning of all these, what we're just going to address as Meltans here, you can see them in all a bunch of tumbling positions. So this is what's crazy. In promotional art for Let's Go, they had the exact same pose for all of the Meltans around the Melmetal, just like in the art here. Now, no one was debating that, no one, is saying that this proves anything, but this is why it's super interesting, all that. Because if legendaries are based off of the local area's folklore, there's something in Britain that just is too cool not to talk about. It's called hill art. There's the Long Man of Wilmington, which is what I believe the Meltan/Melmetal art is based off of. But this is where it gets absolutely crazy. If you remember, the leak says that one of the legendary horses will be a wooden horse. Horse is actually pretty cool, because most hill arts in Britain are actually of horses. We've got the Osmington, and then the Kilburn, and then the Chairhill horse, and then we've got the Folkestone and Uffington horse. These are all super awesome, super massive hill arts. But this is where I think things kind of get cool. this is the Lusley horse. From the research I've been able to do, it actually was, like, since the owner died around in the 80s, it actually lost its it hasn't been maintained, and it's been completely covered in woods. So kind of like a wooden horse. I know that's like a reach, but the thing is the link between all of these and the hill art is too big to pass up. There's got to be a horse. Whether or not it's a legendary, I can't say, but these things are super dope. So personally, I think that kind of goes towards wooden horse there, so we'll just go ahead and mark those off. But here's another thing. The metal snake. I think it's based off of a local folk tale called the Lambton Worm, which worm here is based off of like the original word is worm, W-R-Y-M, and those are like snake-like dragons. So here's a picture of kind of like one of the earlier depictions of the Lambton Worm. It's done by a C.E. Brooke, but here's where things kind of get cool, because this Lambton Worm is also related to several hills. Now, I don't speak Old English, so just bear with me. And when he'd eaten all he could and he had his fill, he crawled away and lapped his tail 7 times around Penshaw Hill. Penshaw Hill is super cool because that's actually a real place. So you can kind of see this guy is that guy. So there's a lot of like liberties taken. The Lambton Worm looks different in every picture of it that I found. But here's something that gets even crazier, because in the tale, oftentimes the knight that beats the Lambton Worm has to get one of two things. It's usually a spiked armor, or a glowing sword, or in this case, both. So what's cool is that he needed this sword to beat the snake that's on a hill. Now, hills being the kind of one relation that's pulling all these together here, that's kind of where I'm going with it. And this is where things get actually pretty neat and kind of give some value to the leak. Check it out. In a lot of modern predictions of the snake, they draw or make him metallic. They actually describe him as metallic in a lot of modern renditions as well. So that's kind of cool. I think, personally, if I were the leaker and I just saw a screen grab of these Pokemon, I would be convinced it was a metal snake. I wouldn't be able to differentiate between worm and snake, because come on, they're the same thing, really. So, personally, I think that kind of is a pretty cool link. I might just be overthinking it, but here we go. We're also going to talk here about armored evolutions. Now, armored evolutions might be a new concept to some people, but for those who have been with the Pokemon fandom for a long time, you will know that armored evolutions and armor has been in Pokemon since, well, a very long time. In fact, even before Red and Blue, the Great Pokemon War. Several Pokemon here are shown wearing armor, and it's super great. This is actually a screen grab from the movie Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. So, obviously, these are wearing a bunch of armor, and this is from Arceus and the Jewel of Life. You see Marcus here, probably the coolest boy in all the movies, voiced by Shadow the Hedgehog. But anyways, his Bronzong is wearing armor, and so is his Heatran. Super cool. The thing is the leak actually specifically lists Charizard, which is cool because Charizard has also been seen wearing armor in the war, but also kind of like the ride gear that we get can kind of be like maybe like them testing the water for us to see how we liked things on Charizard. Another one they listed was Mewtwo, and of course my favorite Mewtwo is the one in the Giovanni cybernetic armor. It's super dope, super sleek, and man, I just remember the scene of him lifting up all those Tauroses and just throwing them as far as he could with his mind. It was so cool. And to this day, I still think it's my favorite way to picture Mewtwo. So, I think might be what we get. It's probably not going to be one for one like this, but it's proof that that's going on. And then next one he stated was Flygon, which is actually a pretty interesting case. Because in an interview with Nintendo Dream Magazine, Ken Sugimori, the guy who does all the designs of Pokemon and stuff, revealed that he was going to give Flygon a Mega Evolution back in X and Y. So basically, the interviewer had asked him about the Flygon and all that other stuff. He said that it won't be Mega Evolving, but he did like it a lot. And most of the reason why Flygon didn't get a Mega Evolution is because they never pitched one he liked. So they tried to give him one in X and Y, which is actually really interesting because guess what? In Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, they actually gave Salamence one. So I think that's actually pretty cool. So the thing is like, whenever people think of Flygon, they'll often think of Salamence because they're kind of like, you know, two sides of the same coin. They're kind of a duo. So, you know, the thing is, a Salamence got one. But what does Flygon get? And personally, I'd be totally cool with, like, an Armored Evolution. And I think Ken Sugimori would also as well, because Armor doesn't change the Pokemon's design like Mega Evolution does. Mega Evolution is like designing a whole new Pokemon, while the other one's just like, you know, putting a helmet and armor on it. So it's really not changing a design of a Pokemon. So I really think that kind of gives this a lot more credence than a lot of people say. But, you know, that leaves one. I think, you know, I've given my case for why I think this is a real leak, all except for one thing, the Armored Zeraora. Now, I've got a personal leak on the inside of Nintendo. Personal leak, he doesn't talk to anyone else but me, and he has shown me the screen grab of Zeraora's Armored Evolution, which is why I'm so personally invested in this. And he says it's a gear that will like help extrapolate his physical strength without damaging himself and augment his electrical abilities. And I'll show you a picture of it now. Okay, obviously I'm joking. This is Deku from My Hero Academia. I was just making a joke here. I have no clue about the Armored Evolution. I was just saying that they're both kind of punchy, sparky boys, and I think that's kind of funny. In fact, I have one named Deku. Well, jokes aside, that's the end of my video. If you liked it, learned something, or think my research was all in vain, or just completely hate my voice for some reason, I don't know. Leave it in the comments, like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you later.